Women don't leave because you made one mistake. So, she didn't leave because you forgot her birthday, or because you had one bad argument, or even because you went through a rough patch at work, or because you made one stupid comment that basically landed or rubbed her the wrong way. That's not usually how this works. And if you genuinely believe that that's why she left, you're asking the wrong question, which means that you are going to make the exact same mistake in your next relationship without ever understanding the real reason why this keeps happening to you. Here is what exactly happened. She didn't leave in that moment. She left 6 months before she actually left. She left in 100 small moments you did not even register as significant. And by the time she physically walked out the door, she had already been emotionally gone for so long that the decision felt more like relief and not heartbreak. That's what I'm talking about today. Death by 1,000 cuts. Not the one thing that caused the breakup, but the gradual, quiet erosion of attraction that nobody else, taught you to recognize or stop. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And when it comes to the slow erosion of attraction, your reaction to the small moments, your ability to see the patterns before they compound, that reaction is everything. If you react too late, you lose her. If you react with awareness, you can stop the erosion before it's too late. So today I'm going to break down exactly how this happens, the specific patterns that kill attraction slowly, and what is actually going on inside her psychology during that time. Do me a favor and stay till the end, because the last one I cover is the one most men never see coming, and it's the most destructive. Welcome to the channel. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are colored by the illusion that one mistake caused the breakup, your soul reflects that. You become stuck in the incident, replaying it, trying to fix it, missing the real pattern. But when your thoughts are colored by awareness of the slow erosion, you can see the truth. And the truth is that she didn't leave because of one thing. She left because of everything. So just to be clear, here's what we're covering today. There are 5 ways men kill attraction without realizing it, and they tend to compound on each other, which is why by the time she pulls away, it feels sudden, even though it's been building for months pretty much. Each one matters on its own, but together they create a pattern she starts to recognize even if she can't name it. And when a woman starts recognizing a pattern in you, that's when the countdown begins. The setup. Why men get this wrong? Understand this and you're halfway there. Men tend to process relationships through events. Women, on the other hand, process relationships through accumulation of feeling. When you think about why a relationship ended, you're usually scanning for an incident, a specific conversation, maybe some argument that took place, a thing that happened, but women don't do that. She's tracking, however, how she felt over time, how safe she felt, how certain, how desired, how led. I could keep going. She's running an emotional ledger that you didn't even know existed. So, when she sits across from you and says something like, "I just don't feel the same anymore," or "something has been off for a while," she's not being dramatic or evasive. Trust me, she's giving you the most accurate description she has of what actually is happening or happened. You just don't have the framework to hear it. But now, thanks to this channel, you will. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." When she tells you something has been off, she is not anxiously dependent on the future. She is describing a pattern that has already been unfolding in the present. And if you can't hear it, you will lose her without ever understanding why. Pattern 1. Emotional instability. Emotional instability doesn't mean you have a temper, though that's part of it. It means your emotional state essentially is not predictable enough for her to feel secure. She can't read the room when you walk in the door. She doesn't know if you're going to be warm and present or withdrawn and reactive. She starts calibrating her behavior around your moods instead of just being in the relationship with you. And once a woman starts doing that, once she starts monitoring you instead of connecting with you, she's already begun the slow exit. Now, think about what this actually looks like on a day-to-day level. Okay, you had a hard week at work, so you shut down. She tries to connect, and you give her one-word replies. She pulls back. You misread that as her being distant, and you get irritable. Now she's walking on eggshells, telling herself she doesn't know how to reach you anymore. 3 months of that, and she's learned not to try. She stopped bringing things to you because she doesn't know what version of you that she's going to get. And when a woman stops bringing things to you, that's her emotionally relocating. You see, she's not expecting you to be perfect or happy. I mean, that's not going to happen all the time, and she understands. But what she needs to know is that your emotional state doesn't destabilize the relationship. She needs to know that even though you're stressed or struggling, she can still feel safe around you and connected to you. That's what emotional regulation actually means in the context of attraction. It's not suppressing yourself or anything like that. It's being stable enough that she doesn't have to manage you. Look, if you're watching or listening to this and you recognize that pattern, I need you to drop the number 1 in the comments. Let's see how many of us have actually been here. Here's the dark truth about emotional instability. Most men think they're hiding it. They think if they just stay quiet, she won't notice. But she notices everything. She notices the tightness in your jaw. She notices the way you breathe differently. She notices the shift in your energy the moment you walk through the door. And she internalizes all of it. She starts to believe that she is the cause of your moods. She starts to believe that she is not enough to make you happy. And that belief, once it takes root, is almost impossible to uproot. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, "No great thing is created suddenly." And the erosion of her sense of safety is no exception. It is created through the accumulation of small moments where she feels like she has to manage you. Each time she has to calibrate her behavior, she builds evidence that you are not stable. And as she builds that evidence, she becomes more and more distant. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you can regulate your emotions, you are exercising that power. You are not letting your stress control your behavior. You are grounded in yourself, and that grounding is what makes her feel safe." Pattern 2, lack of leadership. Let me be clear about what leadership in a relationship actually means, because words get either weaponized or completely misunderstood. Okay? So, I'm not talking about control or dominance. I'm talking about directional clarity. Am I moving this relationship somewhere? Am I making decisions? Am I creating an environment where she can relax into the relationship rather than feeling like she has to steer it herself? Right? Here's what the absence of what I just said looks like. Okay? Every time a decision is to be made, it gets deflected back to her. Where do you want to eat? I don't know. Wherever you want. What are you doing this weekend? It's up to you. What are we doing about this thing between us? I'm not sure. What do you think? Now, on the surface, you might even think it's being considerate, but internally over time, she stops experiencing you as a man that she can lean on and starts experiencing you as another thing that she has to manage in her life. And women who feel like that, like they're managing their partner, don't feel attraction to them. They feel exhausted. Leadership only shows up in how you handle conflict. Do you address things directly and with clarity? Or do you avoid, minimize, and hope it resolves itself? A man who's consistently dodging hard conversations is not perceived as easygoing. He's perceived as passive. And passivity in a man to the female psychology reads as weakness and not kindness. She might not be able to articulate it. She might even defend you to her friends, but her gut and trust is eroding. And trust is the foundation that the traction she has for you sits on. Remember that. Here's the dark truth about lack of leadership. Most men think they're being nice by deferring to her. They think they're being respectful. But what they're really doing is abdicating responsibility. They're making her do the emotional labor of decision-making. And over time, that labor becomes a burden. She starts to feel like she is the one carrying the relationship. And a woman who feels like she is carrying the relationship cannot feel attracted to the man who is not carrying his share. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When you waste your time deferring decisions, you are wasting the opportunity to lead. You are wasting the opportunity to show her that you can take responsibility. And that is a waste that you cannot afford. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you react to a decision by stepping up and leading, you are reacting from strength. You are not being controlled by the fear of making the wrong choice. You are standing in your own power. And that power is what makes her feel safe. Pattern 3, poor boundaries. This one is subtle, and it does the most invisible damage. Poor boundaries with a partner usually presents as over-accommodation, people-pleasing, or the complete inability to hold a position when she pushes back. And here's the paradox that a lot of people don't tell men. The very behavior that's meant to keep her happy is what makes her lose respect for you. When you have no real boundaries, remember this, she can't feel the edges of you. She doesn't know where you end, and she begins. She starts testing, sometimes consciously, often not, to see if you have any ground you actually stand on. She'll cancel plans at the last minute. Does anything shift for you, or do you just reorganize around her? If she says something dismissive, do you let it pass or do you address it? She pushes on a decision you made. Do you hold the line or immediately fold? Every fold registers. She doesn't celebrate it, she logs it. Poor boundaries also show up externally. How do you handle the friendships she's uncomfortable with? How do you handle family members who don't treat her well? How do you handle the way your time gets divided? You see, a man who can't maintain appropriate limits in any direction with her, with others, with his own time and energy, is a man whose world has no architecture. And women aren't attracted to men whose worlds have no architecture. They may feel needed in that space, but needed and attracted are two very different things. And this is critical you understand that distinction. Here's the dark truth about poor boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, you are not being kind. You are being weak. And weakness, in the context of attraction, is not a quality that inspires desire. She may appreciate your generosity. She may appreciate your flexibility, but she will not respect you. And without respect, attraction cannot survive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are colored by the fear of conflict, your soul reflects that. You become accommodating, agreeable, and easy to push around. And she will feel that. She will sense that you are not a man who can hold his ground. And that sensing is what will push her away. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus also taught, "No great thing is created suddenly, and the erosion of respect through boundary violations is no exception. It is created through the accumulation of small moments where you fold. Each time you let her cancel plans without consequence, you build evidence that you have no standards. And as she builds that evidence, she becomes more and more disrespectful. Eventually, she will leave because she cannot respect a man who does not respect himself." Pattern 4. Inconsistency. Inconsistency might be the single most underrated attraction killer because it's so easy to rationalize. You were consistent when you were dating her. You called her when you said you would. You showed up. You engaged. You made her feel like a priority. And then the relationship got comfortable and naturally the effort dropped, and it's human. But here's what you don't understand about that drop, okay? She didn't experience it as you getting comfortable. What she did was she experienced it as you revealing who you actually are now that you don't have to try anymore because you have her. Consistency isn't just about effort in the romantic sense. It's about whether your actions and your words occupy the same space. Do you say you value quality time and then spend 3 evenings in a week checked out on your phone? Do you say she matters to you, but you cancel plans with her more often than you cancel anything else? Do you describe yourself as someone who communicates well, but for instance will go silent for 3 days when something bothers you? The gap between what you say you are and what you demonstrate is where trust goes to die. There's also a subtle form of inconsistency that destroys attraction specifically, and that's emotional inconsistency. Hot and cold behavior being incredibly warm and present, and then inexplicably distant. Some men do this unconsciously because their internal world is fluctuating and they don't communicate it right, or they're not able to. She has no access to what's happening inside of them. So, she interprets the temperature change as being about her. A woman who's constantly trying to decode whether you're still interested in her is a woman who's slowly disengaging to protect herself. Remember that. Here's the dark truth about inconsistency. When you are inconsistent, you are not being mysterious. You are being untrustworthy. And untrustworthiness, in the context of a relationship, is a poison. She cannot build a future with a man whose behavior she cannot predict. She cannot feel safe with a man who is hot and cold. She cannot invest in a man who does not show up consistently. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." When you are inconsistent, she cannot enjoy the present because she is anxiously dependent on the future. She never knows what version of you she is going to get, and that anxiety will destroy her attraction to you. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you react to the relationship by becoming inconsistent, you are reacting from weakness. You are not being controlled by your internal fluctuations. You are not standing in your own power, and that lack of power is what will push her away. Pattern 5. Emotional dependency. This is the one that flies completely under the radar because it presents as love. Emotional dependency in men looks on the surface like devotion, like deep investment, like really caring. And it's really easy to make a mistake for those things because in early stages she might even find it flattering. But it's not the same thing. And eventually she feels the difference. Emotional dependency means your emotional well-being is contingent on her emotional state and her availability. Okay? If she's happy, you're good. If she's withdrawn or upset, you start to spiral. If she needs space, you experience that as a threat. Your mood basically follows her mood. Your confidence tracks her validation. You basically need constant reassurance that things are okay between you and that she still cares and loves you, and she's not pulling away because, well, without that reassurance, your internal world becomes unstable. Here's what she experiences on the other side of that. Hear me. She starts to feel responsible for your emotional state, and that's an enormous weight to carry. It's not romantic to her. It's exhausting, right? She can't have a bad day, for instance, without managing your reaction to her bad days. She can't be in her own feelings without you interpreting her silence as something that's got to do with you. She loses the ability to be a full, complicated human being in a relationship because your emotional dependency basically requires her to always present as she's okay so you can be okay. That's not partnership, it's parenthood, and nobody's attracted to someone they're parenting. The deeply uncomfortable truth here, guys, hear me, is that emotional dependency almost always comes from a man who genuinely loves a woman, but has very little internal foundation of his own. His identity and self-worth, his emotional stability are all outsourced to the relationship. And the tragic irony is that the tighter he holds, right, the more suffocated she feels and the more she'll pull away, which will confirm his worst fear, which makes him hold on even tighter. And it's a loop that only ends one way if nothing changes. Here's the dark truth about emotional dependency. When you are emotionally dependent on her, you are not loving her. You are using her. You are using her to regulate your emotions. You are using her to feel stable. You are using her to feel worthy. And that is not love. That is need. And need, when it is too visible, repels. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you can regulate your own emotions, you are exercising that power. You are not needing her to be okay, so you can be okay. You are grounded in yourself, and that grounding is what makes her want to be close to you." Epictetus taught, no great thing is created suddenly, and the independence required to be emotionally stable is no exception. It is created through the accumulation of small choices, each one reinforcing the last. Each time you choose to self-soothe instead of seeking reassurance, you build that independence, and as you build it, it becomes part of your identity. And that identity is what she will respect. Guys, here is what I want you to see. When you look at these 5 patterns together, okay? They're not 5 separate problems. There are 5 expressions of the same underlying issue, which is a man who has not built a stable, grounded, self-directed identity that exists independently of the relationship. Who are you when you take her out of the equation? If the honest answer is, "I'm not sure," that's your actual work, not the surface-level tactic or reading her signals better, the internal architecture. She didn't leave because you failed in one moment. She left because over time the accumulation of these patterns made her feel like she was in the relationship alone. And a woman who's responsible for the relationship simply cannot be attracted to a man that she is carrying. Attraction requires a counterpart, not a dependent. This isn't a verdict on who you are as a man. It's a map, and you can navigate without a map. The question I want you to sit with is not, "What did I do wrong in my last relationship?" I mean, that question keeps you stuck in the incident. The question that actually moves you forward is, which of these 5 patterns do I recognize in myself, and what does my daily behavior actually demonstrate about who I am? Because the work is not in the grand gestures. It's in the consistency of the small ones. Okay, if this video gave you something real to think about, let me know in the comments. And let me know which of these patterns hit home for you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And when you recognize these patterns in yourself, how you react to that recognition determines everything. If you react with denial, nothing changes. If you react with awareness and commitment to growth, everything changes. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you cultivate thoughts of self-awareness, emotional regulation, and personal responsibility, your soul reflects that. And the women in your life will see it. They will feel it, and they will be drawn to it. Because in a world of men who are reactive, a man who is grounded in himself is a rare and precious thing. Be that man, build that life, and watch how everything changes. See you in the next one.